Okay, so I think anyone involved in insect work in Bucks or the three counties must have come across Nick, so I probably don't need to say much more. So very pleased to have him talking about a puzzle that we've got close to here in the Chilterns.
So, my question, and genuinely, any ideas you've got, I would love to hear, but perhaps separately, because probably we're beginning to overrun, are we? Especially if I've just smashed all the equipment. So, the really difficult thing is, we don't know how to conserve it. Why might we want to conserve it? Well, if you could read that, it's a bit small, so I've copied out the important bit. According to the Hants moth site, they haven't updated it yet, this moth is extinct in the UK. Now, other sites, if you look at them, say possibly extinct, but obviously our local one says it's now been rediscovered because Dave Wilton, can't see him, rediscovered it in the Chilterns. But there are issues with it, and this perhaps explains why people haven't rediscovered it elsewhere. You can see there are 4 different species of plume moth there. Which one, come on folks, which one is the Downland Plume?
Bottom right.
Bottom right, some people are saying. This one, yeah? Is that what you're saying? Confident? It's not easy, is it? But they are correct. The bottom right is the Downland Plume. So many of you will have found the beautiful plume because it hibernates through the winter as an adult, and it often comes into houses. You might bring it in accidentally in potted plants and things, but that one hibernates through the winter. You find it fairly regularly in places where you're storing plants that you've had outdoors in the garden. You've brought them in to shelter them in the winter. And then we've got wood sage and small. Wood sage is not very likely in Bucks because there isn't much wood sage. The small is quite likely in Bucks, and unfortunately the small feeds on exactly the same food plant as the downland. So it's not even sufficient to say, I found the food plant of this moth, that must be it, because the other one that looks just like it feeds on the same plant. So luckily we can send our moths that we think are Downland Plume off to Peter Hall, and he does something wonderful like that with a microscope and a very sharp knife, I imagine, and can then tell us precisely which species. Oh, I pressed the wrong button, brilliant. Let's go back a bit. So, once you've got Peter Hall to tell you that a specimen that you caught actually was the Downland Plume, then we found it, we know it's on a site, it was there that day when you caught it, but the next thing is, how would you find out what the food plant was? Because when we first found it, it was assumed to be a particular plant, it wasn't certain. And we had this chap, Colin Hart, come out, because he's a national expert on plume moths, and he'd never seen a Downland Plume, not surprising, people had said it was extinct. But he came and very quickly helped us to find one on this site, and he then went, while Sue Taylor was with me that day, we were off looking for more of the adults, and he went off in the other direction, and we eventually caught up with him, and he found the eggs on the food plant, which was impressive. I don't think we'd managed that. Up till then, we hadn't even tried looking, I reckon. So Colin found the eggs. That is a leaf of a plant called mouse-eared hawkweed. If you know it, you'll know that's tiny. So we're talking about something, that leaf is about the size maybe of your small fingernail. Those, what look like hairs, are tiny. And the little red dots on it, you almost need a magnifying glass just to see them. But he found eggs, we assumed, of that moth. So we now know it's on these sites, it seems to feed on mouse-eared hawkweed. We're making progress. Where should we be conserving the food plant? Where we can find most of the food plant is where the turf is really short. So I hope you can see from the ruler stuck in there, that turf is about 2 or 3 centimetres high, and it's mostly moss. But is that where the moth wants to breed? Is it breeding there because that's the only bit of mouse-eared hawkweed? Is that the optimum, or just something it can cope with? We do not know. But we've had to assume, and this is where I'm saying, honestly, if you've got an idea, please jump in and tell me. We've had to assume, well, that's what the conditions are like where we found the eggs. That's probably what it wants. I know that isn't logic, but it's the closest we thought we could come. So we're trying to keep the area looking like that. So that's the plant, in case you're wondering what I'm talking about, mouseseed, hawkweed. And it's almost always found in a very short turf. It doesn't do well if it's competing with grass or scrub.
If you can tell it, because the yellow is different.
Very yellow, yes. Very pale yellow. This is, I don't know why I put this in particularly, but just, I think because I feel that we owe a debt to this chap. The chappie in the orange with Sue is Ian Crump, and he's the biodiversity and sustainability officer for Thames Water. Can I say that without English? I've broken the equipment, now I've mentioned Thames Water. You can see why I'm popular at these dudes. But they are funding the work that we're doing to try and help this moth, which amazed Ian even more than me, I think, because he said when we asked him, could we have some money towards looking after this? It was extinct and now you've got it on your site. He said, oh, you've not heard, we've got a few £1 billion of problems. But he went off and came back, oh yeah, actually they've agreed. So there we were, we went back in the winter. This is one of the guys from Chiltern Rangers, we work a lot with them. And we're clearing the site where we found the eggs on the food plant. You can see the cut material over here. That was all raked off carefully because we didn't want to pull up the plant. And now what we've got to do is try and work out whether we've done the right thing. And one of the peculiar things is this site, Winchester Wood, the Thames Water site, that slope faces northwest. But Dave has found this moth at Bradnam, which is mostly south-facing, Euston Bank, which is mostly south-facing, and a couple of other sites which are not northwest-facing. So we're wondering whether this, like I said, is the optimum conditions for the moth. That might be why it's breeding on such short turf there. But we haven't found any eggs anywhere else yet, so we're struggling. So we've got this conundrum. A large population of this moth on a northwest facing slope. Small populations elsewhere. Is it because the mouse-eared hawkweed grows more readily on warmer slopes, that's where the moth has been found in other sites? Is the moth only just surviving at Winchester Wood? It doesn't appear to be. But maybe we're directing all our effort at the wrong site. So, final slide, I think, is to say, wouldn't it be nice if there were a few people out there to help collect some data? Because what we need to know is whether this moth, which was declared extinct and is obviously very rare, whether the work we're doing is right, whether we're doing the right thing in the right place, or whether we'd be doing something else in a different place. So anyone who'd like to come and help look for the moth and look for the eggs, that would be really grateful. Thank you. So as I say, have a word with me afterwards. Thanks.
Well, it was on the one with pillow cellar in its plastic name.
Are you asking me the name of the plant in English? The common name?
Yes, it's that.
The genus of the food plant is Pilocella.
Oh, I see. Is the moth called Pilocella because the food plant is? Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that grows on very short.
Usually, yes. Yeah, usually with no competition.
Hot, dry.
But we weren't absolutely sure that it was the only thing the moth could eat. We knew it did eat that plant, but we didn't know it was the only thing. But it would appear that it is. Sorry, I really have finished now.
Oh, thanks.